Welcome back everybody to another episode on the Monster Bass channel. Thank you all for tuning in to yet another one. On behalf of Monster Bass, my name is Brandon Stoker, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the best lures for the fall transition. Like I said, guys, we're going to be talking about the best lures for the fall transition, but before we jump into it, if you guys like this type of content, tips, tricks, out on the water action, we do it all here on the channel. So if you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell notification so you never miss when we upload new content. Along with that, guys, I run a channel called Wisconsin Wildman myself. That'll be linked down below in the description. I do a lot of hunting, fishing, all sorts of outdoor stuff. So if you guys have not checked out my channel, it'll be linked down below in the description. Go check it out. Maybe you guys will find something you like and maybe subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we're talking about the fall transition. So without further ado, enjoy the episode. Like I said, guys, we're talking about the fall transition. Now I've got basically my top 5 back here that we're gonna go over for the fall transition. But before we jump into that, let's talk a little bit about what the fall transition is. So once that water temp starts to cool off and fall's starting to kind of roll in, those fish are going to start feeding up like crazy because they know the winter's coming. They have to. It's just a biological thing that's going to happen in the fish that they know that they have to feed up because the winter's coming. So they're going to start schooling bait fish like crazy. So I should give you a little hint as into what we're going to be using for lures. But bait fish, you want to represent bait fish. You want to find bays, coves. A lot of times early morning you can actually pull into certain areas and you can actually see if those fish are actively feeding on bait fish. You'll see them popping, you'll see bait fish shooting everywhere. You'll just see it happening. The fall time is a great time of the year to just get on an insane bite. You can catch so many fish in the fall time because they're just so aggressive that time of the year. So bait fish presentation is really what you're going to want to go for, but the big thing in the fall time is that those fish are transitioning to really feeding up before the winter time. Let's start it off, guys. Now, these aren't the only 5 that you can use. There's a lot of bait fish presentations out there, but basically we're going to go over my favorite ones. So in no particular order. With fall transition, there's really no particular order. You're just trying to do a bait fish as best as you can. But my first one is going to be a swim jig, particularly this color. This is a color that I worked with Super K on. Super K Jigs, I work with them on my on this YouTube channel. I'm partnered with them, and this is a color. This is a perfect shad presentation, especially with the paddle tail on there. This is my favorite color to throw in the fall transition because this just looks like a shad to them. You know, this and then that little bit of red makes it look like it's a little wounded bait fish, but it's the paddle tail on there. But a swim jig, perfect bait fish presentation. I get a lot of bites off of this. You throw this up in there, especially if you see, you know, you've got a lot of bait fish, it looks exactly like the shad. Those fish will go absolutely nuts and smoke the swim jig, guys. I've had some phenomenal days in the fall time with the swim jig. It's just one of those that it really stands out. It gives off, especially with the paddle tail on here, the rage tails, it really gives off a lot of vibration in the water. And also another thing is it really wiggles back and forth. It just gives off a very good presentation and it looks really good to the fish. So swim jig is definitely one that you're going to want to toss in that fall transition. A lot of times when I feel like I don't know, maybe the water's a little dirty or maybe there's a little more wind on the water and I feel like the swim jig's not doing well, it's not standing out enough, that's when I switch it over to a spinnerbait. Now the spinnerbait is absolutely phenomenal for that fall transition because of the blades, the bigger presentation. Now one thing you're gonna want to do with your spinnerbait is, I don't have one on here, but in the fall transition, put a trailer hook on this bad boy. There's a lot of bait fish in the area, and if they strike at this thing, just swiping at it, you're gonna want a trailer hook because I promise you, it's gonna save you a lot of hookups. Now, what's so great about a spinnerbait is there's a lot of bait fish in the area. So how do you get your lure to stand out? Well, spinnerbait. Lots of flash coming off of these, lots of vibration, lots of vibrant colors on there. So when you throw this out there and there's a bunch of bait in the area and this sucker comes flying through there, the blades are spinning, it's giving off all that vibration, that shimmer, that shine. It really stands out to a bass. They can really see this, they can feel it in the water. Like I said, it just really stands out and sets itself apart. So a lot of times you get a lot more bites off of the spinnerbait because those fish are really keying in on wow, oh man, that's a big meal for me. So they just go after it. They're trying to feed up anyway, so they're looking for a nice big easy meal. So the spinnerbait is one of those that really excels in that fall transition. Now moving on, before we get into topwater, because I do have a couple topwater ones, we're gonna talk about a little bit of swim baits. So as you guys can see, this swim bait right here isn't the biggest swim bait, but if you guys have been wanting to get on a nice swim bait bite, this is the time of the year to do it. Another great thing about swim baits, guys, is you guys can see that there's a treble hook in there. You have very good hookup ratio with a swim bait, especially with the trebles in there. So, but this is a bigger swim bait. Not like as big as you can go. You can go bigger, especially in the fall time. Don't be afraid to throw a big swim bait. But this is a bigger swim bait, I'll say. And you have those trebles in there. So your hookup ratio is really good with the treble hooks, but you're also throwing a big swim bait. You're targeting big fish. I'm a huge fan in the fall time of throwing big swim baits for a big bass. I mean, yeah, you might not catch as many fish, or maybe tons of fish around. You may not catch as many, but you're really gonna appeal to those big fish because they want a big meal. They wanna feed up. So when you're throwing a big swim bait, even this one isn't a bad size swim bait. Like, you'd still get some good fish to go on this sucker right here. It's big, it's got a big paddle tail. It's gonna give off a lot of vibration. This thing is really gonna shake in the water. It's gonna give off a really nice action. But if you wanna get into a really good swim bait bite, this is going to be the time of the year to do that. So now we're gonna get into topwater. Now, we'll talk about poppers really quick. So this is one of the Monster Bass poppers. This is just a small one. I like starting off, especially right when they start kind of feeding up in that fall transition. I'll use like a smaller popper, and then I'll mix it up and I'll go to like a bigger popper, maybe like, you know, like a chug bug, or just get bigger than this. But these little small ones are great for that first time of the year, especially for smallmouth guys. But a popper, this Monster Bass popper right here, I actually have a few of them. This one is one of my favorites to throw early fall time, especially for smallmouth. This thing just, I don't know what it is, catches fish, it rattles, makes a lot of noise, but it does really well. Those small little poppers can do really well in the early fall transition. But like I said, a lot of mornings you'll get out there, you'll see those shad just moving, popping, and those fish are going on those, they're trying to feed up. Those bass are chasing shad around. So when this thing's popping on the top of the water and they see that, that just looks like a nice easy meal for them. So they will tear after, especially smallmouth. So if you love a topwater bite, fall time, great time of the year to get after it. For my last lure, guys, and this one is probably one of my all-time favorites to throw in the fall time. Probably all-time favorites just to throw in general, but more specifically in the fall time because that vegetation's kind of dying off. So this can get through, and that's going to be a buzzbait. So a buzzbait, I love the white and chartreuse or all black. That's kind of the colors that I go with. I usually go with a 1/4 ounce. This is actually a 1/2 ounce, but usually 1/4 ounce is what I go with. But the buzzbait is phenomenal. It gives off so much commotion. If you guys have ever used a buzzbait before, you know that blade just pop, 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 is just popping on the top, gives off a ton of commotion. So when you are trying, like I said, there's a lot of bait fish in these areas. So you're trying to set yourself apart. So a buzzbait is huge for that. When you throw this sucker out there and you're just reeling it back and it's creating all that commotion, it's creating a lot of commotion in the area. It's setting itself apart from all those other bait fish. And that, you know, a bass is gonna see that, they're gonna feel that in the water, and they're gonna come get it. And a buzzbait bite, that top water bite in the fall time, especially a buzzbait, when they hammer this thing, it's just great. I've caught my personal best off of a buzzbait, and in the fall time actually, and it was just, I just absolutely love using a buzzbait in the fall time. So if you never use one, now's the time of the year to get into it. If you want to use a buzzbait, you want to get on a good bite, fall transition is the time of the year to get after it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. These aren't the only 5 that you guys can use for the fall time bite. There's plenty of others, guys. There's plenty of others out there that I'm sure some of you are like, wait, this is my favorite lure. This would probably work great. You're probably right. These are just top 5 that I use. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you have any questions, comments, leave them down in the comment section below, and we'll get back to them as fast as we can. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.